Okay, excuse me. Excuse me. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the November 20th meeting of the Hubbard County Planning Commission Board of Adjustment. First order of business will be me reading you the meeting procedure, and then we'll get on to the different cases we have tonight. All persons in attendance at the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meetings are expected to comply with the following meeting procedure. Thank you in advance for helping make this a manageable meeting. Copies of agenda item materials are available for public viewing on the table located at the back of the meeting room. These materials are not to leave the table so that others in attendance may also view them. Please turn phones to vibrate or off during the meeting and conduct any sidebar conversations outside of the meeting room. Interruption or other interference with the orderly conduct of the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting will not be allowed. Defamatory or abusive remarks are always out of order. Disruptive persons will be removed from the meeting. The chair may terminate a speaker's privilege of address if, after being called to order, the speaker persists in improper conduct or remarks. Written material concerning agenda items must be submitted to the Environmental Services Department by 3:30 p.m. on the Wednesday immediately prior to the meeting date. Written materials will not be accepted after this deadline or at the meeting because the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will not have sufficient time to review them prior to the meeting, Such material must state the agenda item for which it is being submitted and the name and address of the submitting party. Planning Commission business is conducted first, followed by Board of Adjustment business. The chair will call the meeting to order and explain the meeting procedure. The chair will read each agenda item into the record and ask the applicants to come forward to the presenter's table, state his or her name and addresses for the record, and explain his or her request. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will then discuss the agenda item with the applicant. The chair will ask for public comment on the agenda item. To facilitate an orderly, efficient meeting, there is a 3-minute speaking time limit per agenda item unless the chair allows a speaker additional time. The chair may terminate the speaker's privilege of address if, after being called to order, the speaker persists in improper conduct or remarks. When the chair recognizes a speaker, he or she may approach the audience podium and microphone, state his or her full name and address for the record, and write such on the speaker log, and then share his or her comments. The audience podium microphone must be used by the recognized speaker because the meeting is recorded. A member of the public may not donate his or her speaking time to another speaker. A speaker should state his or her comments and address the issue, not the applicants. All comments are to be directed toward the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment. Please do not repeat comments already made by previous speakers. The chair reserves the right to ask a group with similar comments to appoint a spokesperson. If written comments have been submitted to the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment, please do not read them aloud during the meeting, as they are already part of the record and copies thereof have been given to the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment. After everyone wanting to speak on an agenda item has done so, the chair will close the public comment period on the agenda item. No further public comment will be taken after this point. The chair will give the applicant an opportunity to address issues raised during public comment. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will then continue its discussion on an agenda item, and the chair will entertain a motion on it. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment may make a motion to pass, deny, or table the item. Once a motion is made and seconded, the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will develop findings of fact for conditional use permit and variance applications, and then vote on the motion. Once a vote is taken on an agenda item, the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will move on to the next agenda item. Meetings commence at 6 p.m. and continue until all agenda items have been heard or until 10 p.m. No new agenda items shall be considered after 9:45 p.m. Planning Commission Board of Adjustment may at its discretion continue an item that is on the floor at 10 p.m. Any remaining agenda items shall be continued to another date or time, preferably the immediately following Tuesday at 6 p.m., and no further public notice will be provided for such a meeting continuation. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment, through the chair, may modify these procedures prior to a meeting or an agenda item. Okay, so we'll move on to Planning Commission business. The first order would be approval of minutes from the October 23rd meeting. So ask the board if they have any changes or additions to the minutes or are ready to make a motion.
This is Mike. I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay,
Ken, I'll second.
okay, we have a motion by Mike to approve the minutes from October and a second by Ken. We'll take a vote on this. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
It's Mike. I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
And this is Mark, I vote aye. The minutes have been approved. We'll move on to old business, which is a shoreland management ordinance, possible education use amendment. That's our first order of business here. Anybody on the board here have any comments, or we've been asked to make some changes to what we submitted last time?
I'd like to hear from either Eric or Shar or both as to what part of what we recommended they were uncomfortable with and what they'd like to see us address.
We didn't want,
Sure.
we did not want the applicant to have to come back to get a variance because they were in tier 1.
Why, okay.
Eric, you want to add some more?
Yeah, because the application, the property on which the school was proposed to take place and operate on was riparian, and the structure fell within the first 2 tiers of the ordinary high water mark. The board wasn't in support of the concept of those 2 standards for the reason Shar mentioned, that they would result in them having to start with the variance first before even being able to apply for a conditional use.
Sir, I have it. Shar, why would you encourage us to look at changing the ordinance to accommodate a specific situation that would then open the door for all kinds of things in the future? It seems unreasonable to write a new ordinance or change an ordinance because of a specific situation. If putting in an educational use is, we don't have one yet, we should have one. So what if it creates a variance in this case, which would probably be more than likely approved because of the situation? But I really am uncomfortable with the thought that we should write an ordinance around a specific request, thinking that in the future, it opens up the door to all kinds of situations that we may not like to exist. Okay. I mean, we leave it at that. I'm surprised that that's the way the board would look at it, as, oh yeah, come back with a recommendation that accommodates what the person wants to do. That just seems backwards to me.
Well, the board discussion felt, like Eric said, the way this property is, and so to me, you're not rewriting you don't need to rewrite the ordinance. You can word it in such a way that you could still have somewhat maintain some control over what happens in the first and second tier.
Yeah.
How do I explain this, Eric?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but in this case, from my personal view, in this case, I'm the one who proposed that we do kind of like churches, the first 2 tiers, not let a large complex with a lot of students and activities be too close to the lake. We're swayed to make it like the 1 tier or not at all. just because of the condition that, that's potentially gonna come to us. Follow what I'm saying? I don't know what else to say. I don't think in the future we'd like schools or buildings or activity or functions that are gonna have a lot of people, a lot of parking, a lot of activity going on, and have it too close to the lake, okay? The second addition about it being a non-riparian, that's probably scrubbable. But in terms of limiting a large activity function to be closer than say 500 approximate feet for 2 tiers, I think you'd want to do to protect the lakes in the future. And in this case, all right, the educational use thing is prompted by the applicant, but it's a set of it's the current conditions. It happens to be a building that happens to be a little bit closer than what we might really like, okay?
So you can always send it back to the board and say you don't want to make any changes for those reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how the rest of them feel about it, but you understand the logic there. You got something with, 25 students, cars, there's gonna be a lot of activity. You don't want that kind of function being too close to the lake, as far as I'm concerned, okay?
This is Mark. Could you tell me again, Eric, what tier is this building in?
I believe it's in tier 2. I'll measure it for you.
It was 380 feet, I think, last year, or 340.
Yeah, 330, 340, so it'd be on the second tier.
Be in the second tier. So am I understanding correctly that a church use application would not be allowed where this building is right now if we had that before us? We couldn't put a church in tier 2, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
It would require a variance.
Yep.
okay.
So, Mr. Chair, I have a question. then.
go ahead.
So if someone wanted to use this building on Sunday or a Saturday for a church, they would then have to come before the board for a variance?
Yes, if the county was made aware of that.
Okay. Okay. Well, perhaps we could leave that first one there for the moment and discuss perhaps any other suggestions we'd have.
I was just gonna say that the thing we didn't do last time, which we should have, is in fact, do a definition of the educational use in school. And we can go through that and say, hey, this is what we're describing as a function. We just didn't have, I think, sufficient time.
Right.
We clearly could and work on that and then come back around and address what kind of conditions that we'd wanna put on it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
My
is,
thought.
yeah, this is Veronica, I agree. The basic 3 things that we need to have as an objective tonight is the name of the category, the definition, and then we can start doing some performance standards, so.
Okay, would anybody like to lead with starting us with names and then we all have a copy of Ken's. Okay.
Yeah, I took the 2 things I could find in all the documentation that Eric gave us that I thought were potential descriptions for educational use. Marked them up a little bit, and so it's open to debate. I don't know how the rest of you feel. Either one of them would be okay with me. The key thing is I scrubbed out college or universities, vocational colleges out of it, because I don't think we want to, and I can't remember which county was explicit about that, the fact that that wasn't what we're thinking about. We're thinking, elementary, secondary, maybe kindergarten kinds of things, but whatever.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
this is Mike. I kind of like the Stearns County definition. I think that would suit us. It cites the statute, and if the state of Minnesota says it's a school, we're basically recognizing that a public or private school it fits into that definition, so I can see using that definition.
This is the one that we're
second
looking
one.
at
Yeah,
Correct.
The second one.
This-
on the
Second.
screen here,
Yeah.
yeah,
down below, okay.
yeah. Well, yeah. School or the educational use, we have to do both, right? We have to come up with what is an educational use, and then also do school. Were you saying for the school definition or school definition?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Eric.
To Ken's comment, you don't necessarily need two definitions, Ken. You could, instead of calling this an education use, could just call it a school. And
Okay,
then just provide a definition of a school.
Okay, and so, from my perspective, Eric, this is the one Mike's referring to on the bottom of your screen here. I'm fine with this one right here. I think gets right to the point of it. I don't know if anybody else has any feelings about it, but
This is Veronica speaking. Do we need to be inclusive of the land, building, or buildings? We need to be multiple?
you gotta speak up, please.
Yeah, this is, I was just wanting to know if we needed to go ahead and include the other as the extended part with the land and other buildings. If we need to have both of those on there or included in that definition,
so Veronica, are you talking
combining the two,
these two
correct,
These
into the
two.
one definition.
into one definition?
Of course, Xing out, like Ken said, the college part.
So what you're saying is, get rid of the ecclesiastical, but educational use the wording, verbiage there, and and then just move the stuff under school up into this, add it to it.
Correct.
Okay, let me see,
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
in light of what's happened legislatively, how would charter schools fit in here?
I believe charter schools are defined as part of that, the citation of the Minnesota statutes.
Okay,
Yeah,
You know that, Mike.
I believe so.
I believe so. I'd have to
Okay.
look at it real closely, but I can't imagine since the state sanctions them
Yeah.
and funds them.
yeah, I would agree, I just wanted to make sure they were included.
So I think we're okay there.
Yeah, I believe so. With where it says successor statutes, I think we're okay there too.
Okay.
if we do that, I'd like to see us change the word, take college out of there and write school.
Correct.
Okay, for the maintenance of a public or private school, secondary, elementary school, of the such and such, and then you drop down and say a public school, which relates to what we said, as defined under, and is, excluding homeschool sites, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, okay. And take off and cultivation of the mind. You can tell me what that.
Yeah. Excuse me.
What's this?
So basically, you take this and you
Combine them. It could
change
be
the word
education
college
slash-
to school and put a period after instruction. And then add in the Stearns County definition for school. Okay. I like that
Just
personally.
Let me get that typed up here.
And we're also recommending this is for general development and recreational development lake only. Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Drop the, Kenny wanted the college dropped.
Right, drop.
Yes.
Yeah, just, it'll say public or private school, just drop the word college
Said
and
you
make it
wanted
school.
the college dropped,
Yeah,
that
but
word.
we
Put
School in there.
school, yes, he's doing that.
And you can cut out the the cultivation of the mind.
If it doesn't quite read right, then public or private school.
me know if I've got it or if you need edits.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
I'm fine. In going to Char's point earlier, I'm not up on MS 120A, but we're assuming that that would address charter schools there, so that would be covered under that category.
I'll look it up while we're talking.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
I think Ken
Eric,
is,
then,
Eric is.
in the use table, on that page in our thing, the line item will be school or educational use? What will go in there?
I would recommend school, but
School,
that's
yes,
up to you.
Let's go with that.
school, and then in the definitions, this will be listed as school, and what's there?
And what we,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, okay.
So we have the name, now we have the definition, now we can move to some performance standards if we make sure we've met everything here.
You're researching this, Eric, that point I made?
This is 120A
Okay.
05. So it looks like they've kind of paraphrased multiple definitions in the statute that are more specific to elementary, middle school, and some other school types.
I think we're good, because that would cover charter schools, which,
So we're okay then?
What was he doing?
Checking to see if charter school was in this statute that we're assuming covers.
Oh, okay. Educational center, school, maintains, sorry, secondary school.
Yeah, the special district, number 14 there, by a charter granted.
Okay. Yep, I see it, Veronica. So we're okay there.
I think we're good.
Okay,
Okay, we're okay with that?
yep, we're okay with that.
Good.
Okay, so the next phase in this process, would this be time for performance standards? Okay. And I'm looking through Ken's suggestions here.
You quickly notice that I, which I didn't think applied daycare, I just put in that basically this item A from last month.
Where did you put that? Did you insert this in here?
No, it's the equivalent right here.
Oh.
So building and structures must be located in the third or fourth
Oh,
tier.
okay, all right, where you
Zone.
wrote that in, okay.
I didn't put all that other stuff in there. Floodplain, lake, pond, flowage. Just shoreline zone.
Okay, anybody have any comments on the items he's listed here?
I'm not so sure all of those are applied. We should decide which ones do we want as core things that need to be met. And then the conditional use permit, pretty much covers, a variance or a conditional use permit covers everything else. Am I making sense?
Yes.
This is Mike, I would keep A.
You would keep A, okay? I agree with that. How about B? Do we have feelings about this? B?
Yeah. I have no clue.
Yeah, I mean,
Someone else figured that out before, but I have no clue how much area. We may not want to specify that,
Right.
but in a conditional use permit, things can vary. I mean,
And wouldn't
the
our,
thing that's triggered this you'd have to go there and see it, you know, when they do the application is, well, how much parking area do they have it? You know, and it's a large complex to begin with. It's not just uniquely just a school.
Right, this is Mike, wouldn't our density, portions of the ordinance pretty much accomplish the same thing? Where you can only have so much, density or, impervious
Oh,
surface?
impervious
Impervious
surface. would-
surface.
Yeah. If it's back 2 tiers, I don't know whether that comes into play at all. I don't know. Yeah. You probably would, yeah, I guess.
Leave it for conditional use then?
Leave B.
I
So-
think,
So we could omit B off of this,
yeah, for the purpose, of yeah. I don't see that as making sense.
okay? I think we have to have C in there, right?
This is Mike, I agree, C should
Yep.
be in.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm also in favor of D myself.
Right, as part of the,
Agreed,
That's how I feel about it.
I agree.
yeah. So this is Veronica
D,
speaking. So
yes.
Eric, we're mostly looking at the Stearns County, what they have provided.
Okay.
Would you say, Veronica? You
I
gotta
was
help me
just letting
tonight. I'm
Eric,
having trouble
yeah,
here.
I was just letting Eric know which county we're looking at, what the proposal that you have. I was just letting him know so he can start typing them.
Okay.
And they scratched letter B.
Okay, I'm getting.
Doesn't our
names worked
normal
up here.
conditional use permit list a whole bunch of things like dealing with water, drainage, runoff, all that kinds of stuff? Isn't that already in our, if somebody was gonna do? I mean, clearly, this use needs a conditional use permit.
Right.
Do you have, Eric, can we look at the,
You're looking for?
our ordinance where under conditional use permit, it lists the kinds of things, information that has to exist. It may cover some of these already.
He's catching up with us.
So you wanted A, and then what was the next one?
C.
C.
Just give me a second here. Conditional use permits, where the hell do we? Unconformities, come on, Ken, somewhere in here. Planned unit developments.
And then transportation management plan was the next one.
Yep. Thank you, Veronica. D.
Yeah, see, under conditional use permit, maintenance of public health, safety, and welfare, the prevention, control of water pollution, sediment, nutrients, existing location of site, with respect to floodplains, location with respect to existing roads, compatible with adjacent lands, all these things have to be addressed in a conditional use permit. So if there's something very specific that we don't want to happen, that's about all we ought to put in here. I mean, help me out.
Yep.
No, I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And it says the planning commission can attach all these conditions that need to go with it. I mean, if we want to be real technical, we could say it must meet the conditions of section 1105 of the shoreland ordinance, if we wanted to be technical about it.
So you're suggesting that E then could be dropped because it would be covered by the conditional use permit, or I'm not sure what you're suggesting.
I think probably something that has to do with parking and stuff like that maybe is worth keeping in.
Right. D, I think we decided we'd keep in.
D we'd keep, but E we're
Yeah.
questioning.
Yeah, no, it, hold on just, I mean, Eric could probably pull this up, it's page 77. It says here, shall evaluate the effects of proposed use on the prevention and control of water pollution, including sediment and neutral loading. Would that be equivalent to, by including a water and sewer management plan? Water pollution? It's the same, I think it'd be the same, stormwater. That one's a little more explicit. You guys, help me.
Based on what's on page 77 in section 1105, I don't think it's needed.
You don't think that E is needed here, Mike? Okay,
No.
I'm fine with
Oh,
that.
here, yeah, there you go. I agree.
So we'll not put in E. Everybody okay with that? Tim?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and Veronica, okay. I also don't think there's a reason for F.
I agree.
Yep.
I don't think we need to specify it's gotta be hard surfaced.
No, I think that is site-specific as part of the,
Yeah.
We'll omit that, okay? And H,
H, I think makes sense, cause if you're gonna
You
build
want
it in a
H?
neighbor, huh?
you want H in there?
H,
I think that's a good one to keep.
I agree.
Okay,
you agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. And my next one, which we can debate till Sunday, buildings and structures must be located in the third or fourth tier of the shoreland zone.
Based on the fact that regardless, they have to come for a conditional use permit. Tier one, or tier one is 267 feet. Is that a far enough setback in your mind that we could make this read instead of 3 and 4, 2, 3 and 4? That if it's within that 267 or under, basically under 300,
Or the word just excludes tier one.
it excludes tier one. I think we accomplished the protection standpoint, and even if someone wanted to do that, they'd have to get a variance, but in the second tier in tier two, since they have to come to get a conditional use permit, it'd all be covered there, our concerns, rather than saying you need a variance first, and then you still come and we addressed all our concerns for the conditional use permit. I think that gets what the county commissioners may be after. It still gives us control,
Protection on tier one.
on tier one, and
so generically, you're saying allow tier two. And then we would look at it individually if we had a different case come up.
That's possible. My only thing is the scale. If you got something with 20 students in, tier one's probably fine. If you're gonna have 200 students, which I doubt probably ever gonna
that's why
happen, but,
we leave tier one out
Right,
of
we
it.
can still
They-
exclude
They
tier
have to get a variance for tier one, but beyond tier one, it can be done by permit. All of our concerns are site-specific, proposal-specific, in that standpoint, so they don't have to get both the variance and the conditional use permit.
Right.
They meet all the requirements, okay, now it's time for a conditional use permit, and they apply for that. We do our due diligence and scrutiny, and boom, it's done, and then we don't deal with that again until
Okay.
the next proposal comes.
Right.
It still gives us protection. My concern is making sure we're protected in the future, that we're not granting something here that would allow something real close to the lake without more oversight.
Hey, I'll buy into that.
Okay, so
I mean,
tier,
let's
tier
tier-
2, 3, and 4,
Right.
we
Yeah.
would allow, but tier 1 is where it would require a
We
variance.
could just say
if that
buildings
were-
and structures may not be located in tier
Tier
1.
one.
Instead of saying 2, 3, and 4, you could say,
Right.
buildings and structures must be located. I should probably say building structures and parking
Outside of tier one.
Yeah.
Or exit.
must, cannot be located in tier 1. That'd work.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with
I don't
that.
know about that myself. That's pretty strong language if I had to look at it for a variance down the road.
To not be in tier one?
It's for somebody asking for a variance and you say you must not be in tier 1.
Right, write it
Say
in
the
the.
way that Mike said
Write
it, I
it in
liked
the,
it.
write it in the affirmative, it is allowed in tier 2, 3, and 4.
Right, that's,
Okay.
that's what
Okay.
I'm saying, as a different member
Sure.
down the road.
Any and all school structures must be located in tiers 2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4, yes.
You're fine with that then?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
It just kindly doesn't say excluded in tier one.
Okay. Accomplishes
Go
the
with
same
that,
thing.
Tim.
Yeah.
Okay.
And J, I'm okay with J. Signage.
Okay. Okay, how about the ones down below then?
Did you hear Veronica, Eric?
At J,
So this one.
Yeah, signs, I don't know whether,
What's our, well, we gotta,
Just our,
There,
our
yeah.
sign ordinance, yeah. Right,
Oh, okay, so we're putting, wording it like that. Okay. Yep,
Correct.
I'm fine with that.
okay. How about any comments or questions on the additional performance standard ideas that Ken has outlined?
now if you look down below, one of the things Eric has suggested is, property lines, school structures, and so on. One of the, county one that I looked at had a 100-foot setback, that a school structure had to be at least 100 feet from the property line. It's the only database I have. If you notice, I put in parentheses 100 feet, because in one of the, I don't know where all that stack of stuff is here now. One of the counties had set that setback at 100 feet. Just, do you think that makes sense? Something that's large enough to be a school?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. That makes sense. You don't want it 10 feet off the property line right next to your neighboring property.
We
I-
allow homes up to 10 feet, but I wouldn't want a school 10 feet from my
Right.
property line.
Right.
Do you want to put in a number? The one reference from one county, where is it here? I marked it in mine. Where am I here, Ken? Hold on. It's the other document.
It's on Chisago County,
It was,
I believe.
Polk County.
Oh, Polk County, okay. Chisago has
Oh,
one
no,
too.
wait a minute. It wasn't that one. Come on, Ken. Oh, yeah, it is Polk County. Public schools are schools which teach a similar, providing a That's-
How do we feel about that setback?
I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that, Tim? Veronica?
Yes,
Okay. Okay, so I think we'll adopt that
parking lot.
I'm not
please.
sure the next one is needed.
Are you talking about the screening, Mike?
Yeah, well, the size or the screening, because in conditional use permits, it's compatibility with adjacent land issues is issued, so wouldn't that be addressed?
I don't think we need that one.
Okay.
Vehicle traffic, I think that covers transportation plan.
Right, it's listed above.
Yep.
Parking space size, that's very independent. Parking area, maybe that one we want to, lighting. Maybe the last sentence isn't needing.
Which one are you looking at?
Which one
Down to
again?
parking, I was down to parking area.
Right.
If we get that far, maybe I'm not.
Yeah, this is Veronica speaking. The only thing that I'm concerned with the parking area is again that it's not going to be in tier 1. I don't know if we need to address that in any way.
What do you?
She said, since it's not gonna be in tier 1, do we need to address it?
Yeah, well, we haven't
no.
we haven't put that in there though. It doesn't say anything about parking. It just says structures.
Yeah, other than if you thought about something like this being created in a neighborhood or kind of residential area, and the road into it is a gravel road, that's pretty not likely to happen, I guess.
Well, I think, again, the conditional use permit, when you look at the language there, gives us enough latitude to address all of these things without getting down to these specifics.
Probably the last one, it probably needs to be there, right?
This is Mike, I would ask Eric the question, is that not cut, the last one here on the SSTS, is that what you're referring
Yes,
to? Isn't that covered elsewhere in the ordinance and would just be a repetition if listed here, or?
Not necessarily. I mean, in a conditional use application, we normally would ask that we'd have a septic design,
Then let's include it.
Okay,
Should include
make
it.
sure that there's enough space for the intended
Eric-
use.
Eric, yeah, is supportive of putting it in.
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
agree.
yep. Okay, Eric, let's add that in.
Okay. Are we done?
Well, unless
Well,
anybody
can-
has anything.
I would just like to add, this is
Go ahead,
Veronica,
Veronica.
I would like to add one thing. I would like to add in letter E,
E.
any and all school structures and parking must be located in tiers 2, 3, and 4. That's just, the parking thing is,
I'm just asking, is a parking lot a structure? I was gonna ask
well,
that.
it's not a structure, so I'm just gonna say any school
no,
structures
no,
and parking
Yeah.
must be located in tiers 2, 3, and 4.
Okay,
Is that okay? Does that sound okay?
it's fine with me, Veronica.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else that anybody sees as performance standards specific to this usage? Anybody?
Well, Mr. Chair, I think by sending this back, you guys have come up with a much better.
That-
She likes
We're
this
hitting
better,
everything that
this-
you're.
Yeah, this is a much better solution.
Yeah, okay.
You addressed a lot of things, so
Okay,
thank you.
Good. Okay, Eric, as a matter of do I need to do public comment on this?
I would, just in the event there's someone here who would like to speak to the issue.
Okay, so we'll take a break for a minute. We're gonna open to public comment on this case, anybody have any public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Okay? And no further additions,
I think we're good. I think we're better.
anybody ready to make a motion on this?
This is Mike. I make the motion that we recommend what's listed in front of us to the County Board of Commissioners.
Okay, and this is Mark. I'll second Mike's motion. So we've got a motion by Mike to approve this amendment as it's listed here on the screen, and a second by myself. So we'll take a vote on it. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
This is Mike. I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
And this is Mark. I vote aye. So we will recommend this to our county commissioners and see where it goes from there. Okay, moving on to new business or Board of Adjustment business. We've got approval of minutes from the October 23rd meeting. Anybody have any issues with the October 23rd minutes or want to make a motion?
This is Veronica. I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
This is Timothy, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Veronica to approve the minutes and a second by Timothy. We'll take a vote on it. Timothy, how do you vote?
Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
It's Mike. I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
And this is Mark, I vote aye, so the meeting minutes have been approved. We'll now move on to the, an old business. We've got a variance application, variance application 43-V-23 by Travis Guida, the northeast quarter of the northeast quarter, section 28, Township 141, range 35, Arago Township, parcel 02.28.00110. Applicant is requesting a variance from Article 5, Section 1.03 of the Subsurface Sewage Treatment System Ordinance to create a new tract that doesn't have the required minimum of 2 Type 1 drain field sites. We have the applicant here. If you want to come up to the table, give us your name and address for the record, and tell us again what you're wanting to do.
Good evening, this is Travis Guida. My address is 24250 Shady Ridge Drive in LaPorte.
Okay, and again, what are you looking to do here?
Just looking to apply for a variance that would allow us to subdivide the property,
Okay.
as you stated.
Okay. Okay, any questions or comments by the board?
Yes,
Timothy?
this is Tim, I have a question. Was the your existing setup gonna stay commercial use for your businesses?
The way that it's been run right now is commercial.
Yes, and it's just gonna continue
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know if we subdivide it, the idea would be to sell it, but that's not obviously part of the variance process, but, so we don't know what a future owner may intend to do with the property. I'm assuming they would keep it commercial, we'd sell it commercially, but I don't know what they would wanna do.
And I also wanted to ask why you would never look into having a septic done and you'd pay for all this pumping?
So the question is, why would we not have done this before? When we purchased the property, it was an investment in of itself, and because we had not run a retail business before, we didn't know if it was something that we'd be able to do or not. And at the time, we had received a quote from Thielen's to put in a mound system, and it was, between $40,000 and $50,000. And so, coming off COVID, all those factors came into helping us to decide not to do that and just kind of give it 2 or 3 years and find out. And to be honest, the cost wasn't prohibitive to have us pump. And if we opened it again next year, we'd continue to do that if it was allowable, because the cost isn't, from a return on investment standpoint, it made sense for us to do that.
And that leads me to my next question, is it allowable to leave them tanks in this commercial use as they are to be pumped and maintained?
Yeah, we'd need to look to see that they've got, proper alarms on them, which I don't know if that was done when they disconnected the drain field. And then we'd want to get it permitted officially as a holding tank situation permanently, as opposed to a temporary solution.
It does have an alarm on it that was installed by Thielens in 2021.
Okay. Thank you.
The answer was yes or no.
Yes, the answer was yes.
You could,
It does have an alarm.
He can continue to use, hold them as holding tanks.
okay.
If he got a permit, yes.
He gets a permit.
Because the holding tank sizing, we would need to review and make sure that that's sufficient for the use that's occurring.
So, Timothy speaking again, if he was to expand in this commercial use, would we just be allowed to keep setting tanks down as holding tanks as a system then?
Yeah, I think at some point you'd reach the tipping point of wanting to put a drain field in, but
Okay,
if somebody didn't care about the cost, yes, they could.
okay. Thank you.
Anybody else, excuse me, with questions or comments?
This is Mike. If this were to be used commercially in the future, and we don't know if that would happen, but if it were, we don't know the use, so we really can't even begin to calculate the sizing of the drain field. What we have in front of us is a proposal for so many gallons per minute. If to approve this, I would need something as a condition that if these drain fields are built and utilized, they would have to be metered for a period of 1, 2, 3 years, whatever seems prudent, to make sure whatever future use is not exceeding what's built here. Is that a reasonable condition to put on it? If in fact we grant this, the condition being, if this is built, the system must be metered to determine daily flows for a period of 3 years or 2 years, whatever.
This is Tim speaking, so are you referring then to your tract one
Yeah.
for that?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, no, track 2.
The tract with the businesses.
Track with the businesses.
Well, that's what I was just talking about, that he has existing tanks he's using,
Yeah.
right?
He's saying if he
Builds the drain field
builds the drain fields,
Oh,
and hooks
we
the
approve
drain
it.
field into the tanks,
yes,
and at which point he no longer is pumping however often he needs to, but then a system is installed and being used. I want some kind of guarantee that whatever that future commercial use is doesn't exceed what is built, and I forget the exact number, 900 or is it
963.
960 some gallons per day. So to assure that if it's built, then it needs to be metered and reports submitted for a period of what, I'm not sure what the prudent time frame is it 2 or 3 years in my mind?
Yes.
That way, we don't have to come back down the road then saying, well, gee, somebody put it in there, it was permitted, they built it, now it's failed, and now we're going to the secondary, and then a whole nother can of worms in the future. So that's my concern.
But you're basically, I mean, the piece of information missing here that
Are the flow
we
meters.
would like to have is what the current, what the
Right.
flow rate actually is at 963 adequate or not?
Right.
And we could either
And
deny it or require that be done for a period of time?
Tim speaking, again, I understand exactly, and I don't have a problem with that condition at all, but a designer looking at this can, estimate, the state has gallons charts for figuring out what to estimate to design that their office would accept, even if it was close, I could go to, time dosing and overflow reserves. For safety net as a designer to handle all of that, but I don't disagree with, that'd be for the owner's benefit, for sure.
Well, that and I believe the counties, because then the county has a mechanism to know, okay, we can just forget this is functioning, it's designed for the use being there. Because otherwise, if it's not, until somehow someone gets called to say, go check it,
Yeah.
there could be a failure for how long because of too much going into the system. That's my thought process. It's a way to move this forward, but still protect the county in the future.
This is Mark. Does that seem reasonable, Tim?
Yes, oh,
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that's where I was coming from, is that we're taking the risk a little bit, we're saying, hey, let's know what's gonna be there, especially in the future. If what's there changes or gets added to, you got a baseline for it. So. And you were saying, Tim, that it's that second mound, it's very marginally have to be a mound system, so you don't have an issue with
I think the site's proposals are fine. Yes, I agreed with them. yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna open for public comment. And seeing none, we'll close public comment. Anybody else have any further ideas to add to this, or anybody ready to make a motion on this?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead. Mike.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I make the motion that we approve the variance application 43V23 with the condition, if the drain fields are ever hooked up to the tanks, the flow needs to be, daily flow needs to be monitored and recorded for 3 years and submitted to the county annually.
This is Veronica speaking. Can I just have a question? Can flow meters be attached to even tanks? Yes,
to the
no?
well system.
I mean, does
They
it have to
use
be?
they use event counters on the pumps, and they'll set a dose at a certain amount of gallons, and then there's an event counter, and so if so many events happen, they do the math and figure out the gallons.
So it doesn't have to be the drain field, just the flow meter in general to
Right.
be
Yeah.
installed. So I don't think the whole drain field part, I think.
Is if
a
the drain field's ever hooked up, a flow meter needs to be installed to determine daily flows
Yeah.
and recorded daily and submitted annually to the county
Right.
for 3 years.
And it can be done in the house or all of them and separating from watering lawns or anything. That can be done, so.
Okay, we've got a motion by Mike. Anybody ready to make a second?
This is Timothy, I'll second the motion.
Okay, and Mike, findings, I think we need first three.
Is the variance in harmony with the general purpose intent of the official controls? Yes, the variance protects the adjacent land and the landowners of any potential problems. Is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control? I'd say yes, it's been a commercial use in the past, and it could very possibly will be in the future. Number 3 is the need for the variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the current or prior owner. I would say yes, just on the basis of the layout of the facility and that the original system failed. This is the one area that is adequate in size to accommodate the drain fields. And then accept staff's number 4 and 5.
Okay, we have a motion by Mike to approve this application. He's given his findings and also stated his condition for this, and a second by Timothy. We'll take a vote on this. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
It's Mike, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
This is Mark, I vote aye. Your application has been approved.
Thank you.
Get a letter in the mail from Environmental Services. Thank you. Okay, excuse me. Next, application on the docket here is new business, variance application 48-V-23 by Brett and Derek Wallden, part of Government Lot 1, Section 1, Township 140, Range 34, Henrietta Township on Boulder Lake, a recreational development lake, Parcel 13.01.02400. Applicant is requesting an after-the-fact variance from Section 507.2, Item 9 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance to exceed the number of allowed stairways, sidewalks, or lifts to provide access between a water body and a dwelling unit and the 32 square foot maximum allowed landing size. We have the applicant here, a representative. Could you come up to the table, give us your name and address, and tell us briefly what your application's about.
Good evening, I'm Roger Zahn, and we're the agent for the applicant. Our law office is 120 North Main. That's really where we're doing this from.
Okay?
And we were contacted by the wife of Lawrence Wallden, who had passed away, and received a letter. It was really his project. They live in Indiana, and this is his family cabin. And she really didn't know much about it, except that there had been a violation, and their two sons are inheriting the property. It turns out that he had MS, and he couldn't get down to the lake anymore, so he had the lift built. And, you know, it's pretty clear that the permit required him to tear out the other steps, and she says that he couldn't possibly have understood that. He was quite ill at the time, and then he passed away and never got to use it, and tearing it out would be expensive and difficult, and tearing out the concrete walkway would be really traumatic for the slope, and so hoping to get a variance after the fact. Family not really knowing, he's not here to speak for himself, and how it all came about.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anybody with any questions or comments on this application?
Mr. Chair, this is Veronica speaking.
Yep.
I agree with the authorized agent that removing the concrete stairway would jeopardize the integrity of that retaining wall that we saw when we were there. The entire property has multiple retaining walls because of the steep slope, not just there on that stairway, but it had some on the other side of the boat lift, an area that we were at as well. Had multiple retaining walls, so I'm in favor of retaining both.
Thank you, Veronica. This is Mark. I might add that I'm pretty much concur with her assessment of the application. I just think that given where we're at right now, the best thing we could do is leave well enough alone. That's my own opinion on it. So I'm not in favor of removing either of those.
Right. And Veronica, speaking again, the lift is also heavily vegetated around it, so it's screened well.
Yep. Anybody else with comments?
This is Mike. I support the comments that are made, that I think much more damage would be done by tearing it out the walkway than leaving it in place.
Okay. I'm gonna open for public comment. And seeing none, we'll close public comment. Anybody else have any feelings or questions about this? None? If nobody has any, I'd be ready to make a motion now. I'm gonna make a motion that we approve this application as presented, and I would also accept the staff's findings here for answers on findings of fact.
This is Veronica, I second the motion.
Okay? Okay, we have a motion by Mark to approve this application, accepting the staff findings of facts, a second by Veronica. We'll take a vote. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
And this is Mark, I vote aye. Your application's been approved. You'll get a letter in the mail from Environmental Services.
Very good,
State.
thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, the next application we have here is variance application 49-V-23 by Christopher Hurlburt, Outlots 10 and 11, Moose Lodge, Section 32, Township 141, Range 32, Akeley Township on 10th Crow Wing Lake, a recreational development lake, parcel 01.39.02500. Applicant is requesting a variance from section 702 of the Shoreline Management Ordinance for a proposed lakeward addition to a non-conforming dwelling located within the 100-foot ordinary high water mark structure setback. We have the applicants here. If you want to come up to the table, give us your name and address, and then what you're looking for.
My name is Chris Hurlburt. I live in 116 Second Avenue in Sibley, Iowa. And we're doing some remodeling on a cabin that we bought a little over a year ago. We needed to address a roof issue. And it kind of got incorporated into this. If we extend the roof over the patio, it would it took care of the roof pitch issue, where the two different parts of the roof come together. And it seemed like it seemed like a good resolution to the problem until we realized that we were informed we were too close. So just trying to get a variance to be able to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Anybody on the board have any comments or questions about this?
This is an enclosed porch, you're not just putting a roof over the thing, you are enclosing.
It's not going to be enclosed.
What?
It is not going to be enclosed
So this is just a roof over the.
over a cement
oh,
patio.
You want to pour concrete to replace the current deck and just have a roof out over it, it's not enclosed, screened-in porch or anything?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Anybody else with questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Veronica speaking. Approximately how many square feet of the covered patio are you proposing is going to be in the ordinary high water mark setback? Because one corner with the deck shows it's 79 feet from the ordinary high water mark. but the other corner is 117, so
Correct.
you're within it. So
Correct.
what percentage is going to the square footage?
Without measuring,
Approximately, yeah.
approximately a third of it would be.
Just one-third?
Correct. Be the northeast corner would be within that 100-foot setback.
So approximately 90 square feet. So we're going to say less than 100 square feet is going to be encroaching
Correct.
possibly over that, so. Because you currently had a deck there. It was already encroaching with the
Correct.
deck that was already there. Now you're
Right.
just, okay.
Ken, could I?
Yep, go
a
ahead, Ken.
thought, I realize that this is a little bit problematic because we're now encroaching with some structure towards the lake, which we typically don't do. But the deck was already there, so there's no change in impervious surface or runoff. And I think a thing we could consider is that he owns over 16 acres and 800 feet of shoreline on the property. So although technically it's not something we would approve, when I think that there's no additional runoff and he's got 800 feet of shoreline, a buffered hill, I see absolutely no impact to the lake, no impact from what people see from the lake. And given the size of the property and shoreline, I'm wondering whether we might want to consider agreeing to building just a roof. I thought it was even an enclosed porch before that, just a roof. It just seems very reasonable, more reasonable than sticking to the really rigid guidelines of no building lakeward. Just my thoughts. I don't know how the rest of you feel.
This, go ahead.
Go ahead, Veronica. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, this is Veronica speaking. I agree with Ken. I'm along the same page as you are. I do have some questions though, and maybe some conditions or some questions for the applicant that we can even maybe move a little further. So I have a question on that storage, that accessory structure that you have right there at the 81-foot ordinary high water. What is it?
I think it was a bird watching building.
Okay, but it's completely enclosed, so it's an accessory structure at this time.
No, there's a.
Sorry?
It's completely enclosed, so it's a storage structure right now.
Yes.
No
Yes.
living quarters.
No.
It has a loft upstairs.
Yes.
It's on wood. It's just, it looks like it's not on a slab. It can be
I
moved.
think it's, yes.
Okay. It's not permitted? Is it permitted? I guess I'm asking. I didn't see a permit for it in the file.
I don't have any knowledge of that, I guess, no.
Okay.
It's a little storage shed. maybe.
Would you be opposed to relocating that if it is not permitted to meet the 100-foot ordinary high water mark setback? It would look like maybe 10 feet at this point. Of course, I don't know where your septic is looking at this, but
It could be moved, yes. Yeah, I don't have an argument for not moving it other than
Says
it's
shed
easier to
with
leave it
floor.
where it's at. And I don't know how sound the structure is. If it were to try to pick it up and move it, I
You
don't,
could easily move the structure.
yeah. Well, one of the things that I was thinking, I am in favor of an of a covered patio, not enclosed. I would definitely look at a condition saying that it could never be enclosed and it would remain open air.
I would be willing
The
to,
second condition I would have is if there's not an permit for that it would need to be moved to some, that meets the ordinary high water mark setback,
sure.
and a permit would be obtained.
She's asking to, excuse me, Veronica, Ken couldn't hear that.
Right.
You're asking to move that.
That would be a condition that I would
Second, But you
place.
said first condition.
Yeah, but I don't believe it's been permitted. I went through all the files.
Go ahead.
Yes.
What was your first condition?
That it would remain open air and never be enclosed.
Okay.
I
Is it
could
also
because-
yeah,
go ahead.
possible third condition that if the structure's ever rebuilt,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be moved back to the, we've done that sometimes in the
We
past.
have done that, but since there was already a deck there that was permitted,
Yeah.
I don't know, and we're talking a very
I'm
small
talking about the
percentage.
house.
Oh, the entire structure, sure,
Yeah,
yes,
if,
you bet.
that it, really can't be expanded, and or if it's rebuilt, it needs to be moved back to the 100-foot setback. We've done that in the past
Yeah, sure, I would be open to that.
as a trade-off.
But it does have a basement, so that's the hard thing.
Oh, it has a
It
basement?
does have a basement.
Okay,
So,
yeah. It probably won't get moved then.
right, I'm saying, Eric, did you find a permit for that? I didn't either, so,
Doesn't appear to have been permitted.
right,
And
so,
then in regard to the deck, for what that's worth, it was permitted,
At
but it
eight,
was stated that it met setback, which it didn't, so it ought not to have been permitted, but we didn't have the ability to go out and
Sure.
field truth
Yeah.
setbacks.
okay.
So when that permit was applied for that deck,
Back in
it was
1988.
stated to meet setback, but we found that it didn't, is that correct? So that deck that had been there was not, didn't meet setback.
Okay.
Does that invalidate the permit?
Well, it's in violation of the permit, so
So
I just wanted to
technically,
point
there
that
is no
out.
permit then.
Because if you're using the fact that there was an existing deck there as reason to allow a covered
But we would allow.
porch now,
Right,
But we would
that
normally
deck
allow a deck
wasn't
in the front.
compliant.
right, okay. Okay, anybody else with comments or things?
This is Tim, I agree with Veronica because it does clean it up. I don't agree that, if somebody asked to leave it there, I would have left it there myself because I don't see it.
Storage building?
Yeah,
Yep.
the accessory, because I don't see it harming the lake.
It's
But
well
without,
vegetated, but if we're gonna give one way, I was just trying to,
Sure.
you know.
but I agree with,
And it doesn't have to be, that was just a thought.
yeah.
This is Mike, I'm in agreement with Veronica. I think supporting this application based on the small percentage of area that's actually encroached, because it's kittywampus to the world, I guess, is how I would describe it, that it seems to be fit the character, and there's I don't see any potential damage to the lake.
Okay, have I done public comment on this
No.
one? Okay, let's open for public comment. And seeing none, we'll close public comment. Is anybody ready to make a motion on this?
I'm ready to make a motion, sure.
Okay.
Just before I go ahead, I just wanted to make sure you were clear of the possible conditions that we place on it. Number one was that it would remain open air and never to be enclosed.
I agree to that.
Yep, and then number two would be to, if everybody's on page, to move the accessory structure currently that exists right there, to meet the 100-foot setback. And you would have to obtain a permit.
I'm here asking, I'm asking for something and I don't wanna come across as ungrateful, but if there's a way that we could leave the existing structure there, I would sure appreciate it.
I think it's harmless. I think that.
It's fine, I was just trying to find
no, I
some
think it-
mitigation.
But
I appreciate
if I
it.
have to move it, I will.
I think I'm with Tim over that it really has no impact. The lake, it's screened and stuff.
What if we put the condition that if it's ever rebuilt, it must meet
I
setbacks?
don't think we can do that.
Can't do that?
Violation, so it has to move regardless.
Oh, so, yeah, so then I might as well put it on there. So,
Okay.
okay, then, are we ready?
So that would be mandatory, Eric, that,
Yeah.
because it's in violation, that would have to be moved.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I really don't have to put it on a condition
Okay.
unless
All
it
right.
comes for a variance.
That,
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
the only way
Yes,
it could
that's right.
stay would be if it
That's
met
right.
the
We
water
can't approve
oriented
it when there's a
accessory structures,
violation, right?
48 square feet, which, from what you described, I didn't see it, notice it myself, but if it's greater than that in area, then
Come back and ask
you
for a
would need a
variance.
variance.
Bigger than 6 by 8, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was like 5 foot, 5 foot, 5 foot sections, and it's an octagon shape, so, yeah. And it's probably a little taller. What's the dirt height on that?
10 feet.
Because it has a loft, so it'd be real close.
Let's just move it.
And because of notice rules, we can't add it onto this variance.
Yeah, I could still put it as a condition to move, and he has to get it permitted. Yeah.
No, I think Tim's
Was talking
thinking the
about
other
leaving.
way.
You what? Oh. I think it'll be clean just to do it this way. Then he won't have to get a letter, a nastygram, and
Okay.
so. Okay. All right, this is Veronica. I make the motion to accept the application as presented with the following conditions. The 9 by 30 covered porch must remain open and never be enclosed. Number 2, the accessory structure at the 81-foot ordinary high water mark setback must be moved outside the 100-foot ordinary high water mark setback and a land use permit obtained for such. And then number 3, condition number 2 must be met before the land use permit obtained for the 9 by 30 roof expansion. Basically, you have to move that thing before you can go start it any further. And then the staff's findings of facts. Number 1, is the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intents of the official controls? Yes, allowing a roof line alteration to extend 9 feet by 30 feet to create a covered porch over the previously permitted deck of the same size with the condition that it must never be enclosed and always remain open air, and the other condition having the accessory structure at the 81-foot ordinary high water mark to be removed outside of the 100-foot ordinary high water mark setback and the land use permit obtained for such structure is in harmony with the ordinance's intent and official controls. And number 2, is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control? Yes, a covered porch on the lake side of a cabin is a reasonable request. The structure is outside of the shore impact zone, and the small portion of the covered porch and deck would not encroach any further than the previously deck constructed in 1988. The structure is well screened from the lake with tall, mature vegetation. Number 3, is the need for the variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the current or prior property owners? Yes, the structure is a legal non-conforming structure built prior to the shoreland management ordinance. The structure the structure is outside of the shore impact zone. A variance is needed for non-conforming structures to expand the roof line 9 foot by 30 foot to cover over the previously permitted deck, and adopt staff's facts, numbers 4 and 5.
Okay, we have a motion by Veronica to approve this with the findings that she submitted. Do we have a second?
This is Ken, I'll second the motion.
Okay, and we have a second by Ken. Okay, so we'll take a vote on this. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
It's Mike, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
And this is Mark, I vote nay. Your application's been approved.
Thank
Get a
you.
letter from Environmental Services.
Thank
Letting
you,
you know. Thank you so much. Okay, Eric, do we have any miscellaneous tonight?
Not for miscellaneous. Communication would be relative to next month's agenda. Appears we're gonna have a half dozen variances and a conditional use permit for the campground that we've been considering with variances in recent months.
Okay, so six variances and then that one conditional use?
Yep,
Okay,
that's all I've got.
all we got, that's enough. Okay. If nothing else, I'll move to adjourn. Anybody want to make a motion?
This is Mike, I make the motion, we adjourn.
This is Mark, I'll second that. So we have a motion by Mike and a second by myself to adjourn. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
And this is Mark, I vote aye. The meeting is adjourned.
Good job, Mark.
Thank you all for helping.